Welcome, everybody, to the JJ and Pug Show. It is February 6th, 2025. This is part 2 of the podcast. And we are without Jason. We are with David Powley.
Glad to be here, guys.
As we record from the Highland Communities Podcast Studios. And this is People Are Ugly. The song is a cover called What's Going On.
It's an unfortunate band name.
I know, People Are Ugly. Great, right? But it's a solid cover, actually. It's really good.
I do like it, yeah.
Have you heard the original from the 90s?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, everybody's heard the original. It's a super easy song to sing along to. But anyway, way to go, People Are Ugly. It's a solid take on the song. So, all right, man, let's just get right into it, okay?
Let's do it.
We've been talking about it all night long. Actually, you know what? Let's do this first. Let's get the easy stuff out of the way. Baseball Hall of Fame is stupid.
Absolutely, man. Ichiro got screwed.
Okay, every year they do an election. They have to. The Baseball Writers of America have to vote for the people on the ballot as to who gets into the Hall of Fame. For those of you who don't know, okay. And every once in a while, you'll get a person on the top of the ballot for the first time. It's their first opportunity to get into that Hall of Fame, who is a clear Hall of Famer. There is no question this person's a Hall of Famer. Inevitably, these fools in the Writers Association will not all vote yes. Someone will say no.
There's honestly a really simple fix.
Make them display their names.
Make them display who they're voting for. That's
it. The vote
it.
is anonymous, so we don't know who voted no. But Ichiro Suzuki is the greatest Japanese baseball player to this date. That's not to say he will not be surpassed, because
he absolutely will be.
Yeah, because Shohei is a freak.
It's inevitable.
But he is the guy that really paved the way for Japanese players to hit it big in the major leagues. He played for the Seattle Mariners. Not his entire career. Where did he end it?
He ended in the Yankees, I think. Or at least he played there for a couple of years.
He played with the Mariners for a little bit. But anyway, he was a legend in Seattle. Absolute legend. This guy didn't hit home runs. He hit them every once in a while. But he was always on base, stole bases, a rocket for a right arm. If there was ever a surefire Hall of Famer from that generation of players, it was Ichiro Suzuki. Inevitably, some fool decided, nope, not this time. Everybody else in the Writers Association voted yes. One dude said no. And the reason why this is stupid is it happens every single time. It happened to Randy Johnson. Randy Johnson, again, if there was ever a surefire Hall of Famer, a guy who played in the steroid era, who didn't have any steroid allegations ever levied against him, who won the Cy Young Award, which is awarded to the best pitcher in the league 4 straight years. By the way, 2 of those were in his 40s. He's the second most strikeouts in baseball history, second only to Nolan Ryan, who pitched for 26 years. He won a World Series ring. I mean, I could go on and on. Randy Johnson's the greatest player to ever play for the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Oh, without a doubt.
Without a doubt. And so obviously I'm pretty partial to him. But at the same time, it's like, who voted no? Who said no?
I mean, at the end of the day, they're in the Hall of Fame. But it's just the fact that they're never going to be able to say that they were a unanimous Hall of Famer, because 1 or 2 writers, I don't know what came upon them. They felt just the need to be different for whatever reason, and they voted no. It's ridiculous.
The stupid thing about this is there's one player that does have the distinction, of being a unanimous Hall of Famer. One. And I don't even know that I'm mad that it's him. I'm just mad that he's the only one, is really what it is. It's Mariano Rivera. He is clearly the greatest closer in baseball history. A position that didn't exist until the 80s. So, okay. It's like, yeah, you. I
mean, he deserves it, but he's not the only one who deserves it.
Exactly. He's not the only one, because before him, it should have been Trevor Hoffman, who before him was the greatest closer of all time, who wasn't a unanimous Hall of Famer. Barry Bonds, Babe Ruth wasn't a unanimous Hall of Famer. Babe freaking Ruth. The person that before Shohei, everybody clearly said this is the greatest baseball player to ever play the game. He wasn't a unanimous first ballot Hall of Famer.
I mean, Babe Ruth, more people know Babe Ruth than probably any other player in the history of baseball.
Yeah, dude, there's a movie. How many movies are about the guy?
My favorite movie, Sandlot.
Dude, by the way, I'll always. So, by the way, David is my nephew. He is the Suns super fan that I refer to often. I have known him his entire life. He has known me his entire life. And when he was a child, we used to watch The Sandlot all the time. To which David would always say the exact same line. And that is when the two little brothers are talking about how much trouble Smalls is in because they've now realized the ball that he was playing with was signed by the Babe Ruth, the Sultan of SWAT. The Sultan of SWAT, the great Bambino. And it's when he finally, no, that wasn't the part. It was when Squints kisses Wendy Peppercorn. And they go, oh no, he's in deep shit. David, little 2-3-year-old boy, would repeat that all the time. And we couldn't help but laugh because it's the funniest little thing to hear a little boy say that. That's my story about that.
It empowered me. I blame them for making me keep saying it.
The point I'm trying to make is, which by the way, I gotta write that down. The point being, if Babe Ruth wasn't a unanimous Hall of Famer, then nobody is. Not even Mariano Rivera. But it's stupid to even have the conversation because they all are. All the people we just talked about are unanimous Hall of Famers. Even when Albert Pujols, when his name's up, he is a unanimous, surefire Hall of Famer.
Probably not going to get it.
He's not going to get it because some idiot out there is going to say, no, not me. It's insane.
They just need to make them put their names to it. I mean, if you're in a position where you can vote on that, we should know who you're voting for.
You should stand by your vote.
Exactly.
You should not be afraid of the backlash. You should be able to say, yep, it was me. I said no. And here's my reasons why.
Exactly. And I feel the same way about all NBA teams. I mean, if you're voting on things like that, you should have your name to your vote.
Your ballot should be public.
Period.
And listen, it requires you to explain why. Do you remember... it was Jalen Rose, and I can't remember exactly who it was Kyrie Irving. He voted Kyrie Irving onto the NBA team. Okay. Kyrie Irving had played like 30 games that year. He hardly played at all. It was, I can't remember if it was a COVID year or if it was the year before that. Anyway, it was when Kyrie Irving was being weird Kyrie Irving, where it's like, hey, I'm going to my sister's birthday party instead of playing basketball tonight. And I'm not joking. That happened. That's not me being, flippant here. That actually happened. And Kyrie Irving got voted to an All-NBA team, and Jalen Rose was one of the guys that voted for him. And when they asked him about it, he said, he's one of the greatest players in the basketball. And they're like, but you think he was deserving this year? And he's like, honestly, it's on me. I didn't even pay attention to how many games he played. And you know what?
I respect the crap out of that.
The fact that he told the truth. He was wrong to do it. To vote for Kyrie, but it was, hey, I respect the fact that you're not hiding from this.
Exactly.
And you should have to put your name to this because there are going to be people out there. If the guy that ever comes forward and says, I'm the one that didn't vote for Ichiro, his house is not going to get egged. They might, but the chances are that he actually receives huge backlash is not much. But if you had to put your name to it, do you think he's not going to vote for him?
I honestly think he'd get a lot of props for at least saying that he was the one who voted no. I mean, people would be understandably upset, but
yeah.
I think he'd get a lot of props for at least coming forward.
Yeah, you're right about that. But I mean, there'll obviously be a lot of backlash to it. But I don't think, first off, it's baseball. Let's not pretend like it's going to be that big a deal. People are going to be freaking out that much.
Yeah.
Fools like me and you are the only ones that really care. But I just think it's dumb. It drives me nuts. So that one's out of the way. Okay, next one. This is a question because the Super Bowl is coming up. The Eagles are playing the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Eagles are famous for many reasons. They are probably most famous over the last course of the last couple seasons because they have the most unstoppable play in football that many other teams have tried to replicate. Nobody has been as successful. And it's called the tush push or the brotherly shove. I like the brotherly shove because it's, from the city of brotherly love.
I like the tush push. Get a little rhyming in there.
To each their own. And the whole concept of this play is the running backs line up directly behind the quarterback. And this only works in short yardage. If you got 1 yard to go, okay? This only works then. Because if you got 10 yards to go, this is pointless. It's not going to help you at all. The quarterback gets up under the center, takes a snap, and literally just pushes himself into the back of the center while the two running backs push him from behind, okay? And it works like 99.9% of the time. And I think the only reason why I'm saying 0.9 is because of those plays against the Commanders in the last one were just, they kept getting closer and closer. And then the Commanders kept jumping over and over and over. So it was like, I completely understand what the Commanders were doing. I mean, what else are you supposed to do?
Trying to do what you can.
Try every possible way to stop it because nobody else has been able to do it. Not even teams with like Josh Allen, one of the biggest, strongest quarterbacks in the league, couldn't do it. They can't replicate it. It seems like a simple thing. It seems like everybody should be able to do this. The difference with the Eagles is, I dare you to find a better offensive line than what the Eagles have.
That's it, honestly.
And their quarterback is like a power lifter. Do you know Jalen Hurts is like regularly squats over 600 pounds?
I mean, yeah, but I think it more has to do with the offensive line.
It has more to do with it.
100%.
But the fact that he can also get behind and push.
Oh, yeah.
And then we've got 2 running backs behind, one of which is also known as Quadzilla and Saquon Barkley. Like, pushing behind him, like, it is an automatic touchdown. There's been so much talk about banning the play because it's unfair. Okay? That's a lot of background. A lot of background on that one. I equate it to this. And again, baseball nerds, you may know of what was called the shift or the overshift. And once upon a time in baseball, what you do is if you had a guy that was coming up and he was known as a pull hitter, meaning he only pulled the ball, he'd hit the ball to his side of the infield. So if he was a right-handed hitter, he was pulling it to the the left side of the infield all the time. Third base, shortstop, second. In that area all the time. And vice versa for a left-handed hitter. First base, second base, and in between. Only over there. Never went anywhere else. Sometimes they might hit it directly center field, like straight over the second baseman. And so what defenses would do is they would do the overshift or shift their infield. So if you've got somebody that is we'll say a right-handed hitter, you move first baseman to kind of halfway in between first and second base. Second base goes directly over second base. Shortstop right there in the hole between second and third covers the corner right there at the bag so that nothing's getting past him. And it made it almost impossible for that pull hitter, that right-handed hitter, to get the ball anywhere because he could never go to the opposite side of the infield. He couldn't ever shoot it to the other side where there's a huge wide open space between first and second because there's only one guy defending it. And it'd be the vice versa the other way around. So if you're a left-handed hitter, they'd overshift to the other side, covering up most of between first and second base. That's a lot of explanation. But it was so annoying because me as a fan, I thought, if you have a problem with this as a hitter, or baseball, if you have a problem with this, teach your hitters to go to the opposite field. Like, it seemed like the easiest possible thing to fix.
I don't remember which player it was, but I do remember there was a player that got a triple off a bunt. Because they had shifted their third baseman pretty much all the way behind second base.
Yes.
He just bunted it up the line and got a triple.
Because right field is basically covering the line. I mean, he's basically all the way about to the warning track. Like, he's almost to the wall, right? Mm-hmm. Or maybe he's like 20 feet in front of him. But even still, there's no one to get that ball forever. It was crazy to me because I honestly felt like you were talking about this before. Dude, just bunt the ball. You don't have to swing. Just knock it over into that area.
Do anything to get it into that hole.
Nobody's covering it. Nobody's covering it. And the thing that was so annoying, guys, is this went on for like 6 years, 10 to 6 years, that nobody ever was able to figure out how to go opposite field. And it became such a problem that instead of baseball saying, hey, you know what? That's the batter's fault. Let him figure it out.
Yeah.
They banned the shift. Okay? And as a person who looks at this from surely the ability to like, listen, figure it out. These are athletes. It's well within the rules. Figure it out. I don't like legislating those things out. I don't want to get rid of the tush push. Listen, if the Eagles have that advantage because they figured it out, good for them.
It's a glorified QB sneak.
It's a glorified QB sneak.
The QB sneak has been in football since as long as I can remember.
I never remember a case in which it wasn't there.
And so just the fact because one team can do it better than everybody else, we suddenly have to get rid of it?
No, stupid.
Doesn't make absolutely any sense at all.
Yeah, to me, it's like the antithesis of what true competition is. You're basically saying, no. It's like you were to say, hey, you're not allowed to have Shaq on your team. No one's got somebody as big as him. Nope. Outlaw. Victor Wembanyama, no longer allowed to play basketball. He's too tall. Nope, not allowed.
Yeah, Shaq, sorry. You're too good at those dunks.
I don't want it anymore.
You can't dunk anymore.
We're going to eliminate the three-point line. Steph, you're too good at this. Not allowed to shoot three-pointers anymore. It's like, no, this is the rule. Anybody, any team can do the tush push. Anybody. Mm-hmm. There's one team that's figured out how to do it right. And they shouldn't be punished for it. Any team could teach their hitter how to bunt. Nobody did it. But yet baseball went the opposite route and outlawed it.
Yeah.
Now, I do have to say this. It's kind of hard to make the complete comparison because when they banned the shift, baseball got more popular. But
I think that has to do more with the pitch clock and other changes that they made.
They made a bunch of changes all in one offseason, and I think those had more to do with it.
Yeah.
But I do have to admit, it is nicer seeing the ball and play more. I do have to say, as much as I hated the fact that they legislated out and tried to make things more fair, when in reality it was always fair, that you just because you didn't know how to go opposite field didn't mean you couldn't play the game. You just needed to learn how to play it better.
Yeah.
And I know this is one of those like stupid old school things. You don't remember Tony Gwynn playing, do you?
I mean, no.
You know who he is, though.
Yeah, I know who he is, but
So
no.
when I first started becoming a baseball fan, Tony Gwynn was kind of at the end of his Hall of Fame career. He was a outfielder for the San Diego Padres. All this dude did was hit. He didn't hit homers. He wasn't a super crazy power hitter, but all he did was hit. He had less strikeouts in his career than many players do in a single season now. The dude just put the ball in play all the time. Going opposite field was no big deal for him. All he needed to do is exactly watch the pitcher, throw a couple pitches. Now he knows what you're going to do. Slap the opposite way. Or pull it. Or send it up the middle. Like, the guy just knew how to hit. And I know I'm talking about a Hall of Famer, a guy that was famous for his ability to do this, but he was, in fact, the last hitter to nearly bat 400 in a season before the strike canceled the season. And so it's like, this guy was one of the all-time best, but seeing guys go opposite field was not uncommon when I grew up watching baseball. Not uncommon at all. And you know when it started becoming very uncommon?
When everyone tries swinging for the fences.
Yes.
It's the home run or die.
And the person I was specifically, he's not the fault of it, but he's definitely the pioneer of it, was Mark Reynolds.
Yeah.
You know, when he was like, I don't care if I strike out 200 times. I knocked it over the fence 44. I get paid for dingers. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying, again, he was the pioneer for it doesn't matter. Strikeouts don't matter. I'm here to hit the ball. Like, I kind of liked him, but
I loved him. He was one of my favorite players growing up.
Yeah, well, especially because you grew up in the dark days, man.
That's true.
Do you even remember the World Series team?
I don't have a single memory of
Yeah,
them,
that's
no.
unfortunate because you were young. Let's just say that.
I was 2 or 3 at the time. Yeah.
No, you weren't that young, were you?
Yeah.
When were you born? 98?
Yeah.
Yeah, you would have been 3. Yeah. You would have. Yeah, there's no way you'd remember that. So you don't remember Randy Johnson at his heyday?
I remember him later on, but no, I don't remember like.
Not when he was at his greatest.
Nah.
Yeah. Well, at least you know who he is. You know about the history there.
Yep.
All right. So that one, I think we've both said that we are fully in favor of keeping the tush push legal, and outlawing it seems like a really, really soft move.
Man, if you don't like it, stop it. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. Or
stop
learn how to replicate it.
That's
figure
it.
out how to do the same. Like, it's not like they're doing something that nobody else can do. Mm-hmm. They just have figured out to do it better than anybody else can do. Okay. Let's see. We're going to skip this one. I'm going to move this one to the next line. But we're going to talk about the real reason why Justin Tucker apparently sucks now and is no longer the greatest kicker of all time. Allegedly. Let's make sure that's clear. Nothing's been proven.
Deshaun Watson 2.0.
Or 1.0. And Deshaun Watson might be the sequel. Based on the timeline of these allegations. So apparently, Justin Tucker has been accused. Do you know what the total number was? I want to say it was close to 30. Last I'd heard.
30?
30.
I think I saw like 13, but I mean, I may be off.
I might have the wrong 3 in there. You want to look it up while I talk about it?
Yeah, I got you.
So Deshaun Watson famously was traded from the Houston Texans to the Cleveland Browns in one of the worst trades of all time, as history will retell it. Specifically because he was no longer the quarterback for the Houston Texans because he had numerous allegations of sexual misconduct with massage therapists. Apparently, he was trying to come onto him every single time he was getting a massage. And it was not reciprocated. It was not invited. Again, allegedly. All of these accusations have been settled out of court. But when you hear the word settled, typically means, in my opinion, court of public opinion, not actual legal opinion, you probably had some guilt. And instead of actually having to admit guilt, you decided to open your checkbook and pay it and try and get them to go walk away. Okay? Say what you want. I am not the lawyer, nor am I the judge or jury. I am only telling you what has been reported. Deshaun Watson has gone on to have the worst stretch of his career, and that is no exaggeration. He looks awful. He went from being one of the best quarterbacks in football to easily the worst. Nobody would touch him with a 10-foot pole. This guy is a cancer in more ways than just on the football field. He now has ruptured his Achilles twice in a calendar year. Probably, who knows if he's ever going to play again.
Yeah.
It has wasted the career of Nick Chubb, a great running back, and now cost them, most likely, Myles Garrett, one of the best, if not the best defensive end in football right now, who's requested a trade because he's sick of losing.
I forgot about that.
I mean, really, when you look at it, the amount that the Cleveland Cavaliers have lost, not gained, lost because of that
Browns.
trade.
Cleveland Browns.
I said Cavaliers?
Yeah.
My bad. Sorry, Cavs. You're doing great. You're doing great, guys.
They're killing it.
They're killing it. But the Browns, obviously, also historically one of the most cursed franchises in the NFL, they have lost innumerable amount of assets, money spent, And season ticket holders, like, it's got to be season ticket holders, right? They've got to stop buying this crap. And generational talents in Myles Garrett. And I don't know if I can say the same about Nick Chubb, but Nick Chubb was freaking good. He really was pretty good. I mean, he tore his ACL, and this was a comeback year for him. It didn't really come back that well, but he was really good before that. And
I wouldn't put him in the generational.
No,
Myles Garrett is absolutely generational.
Yeah, Myles Garrett is absolutely generational. In fact, I've heard lots of people say that if that guy wanted to today, probably could just switch and play in the NBA.
Come to the Cardinals, please.
Yeah, let's bring him, baby. I would. Would you give up 2 first-round picks for him?
I would give up 2 first-round picks.
2
for him.
firsts?
I would. It's our biggest need by far, in my opinion.
I know. I fully agree. Like, there's nothing we need more than a pass rush, and he immediately brings it. But I'm always hesitant to give up 2 firsts to a guy that's like. Do you think he's got 4 years left in him? He's 27, but it is the NFL.
I think he's got 4 years left in him.
If he's got 4 years, then yeah, I'll give up 2 firsts. If I know that I'm getting Myles Garrett for the previous 5 or 6 years for the next 4, I'm all in. But if I know I've only got him for another 2 or 3 years at peak performance, then 2 firsts is a lot to give up on a rebuilding team for a guy that's only got a couple years left in him. I don't think he's that close to done. I mean, he's insane. But this isn't a Myles Garrett discussion. It is a Justin Tucker discussion. What's the final number? Did you get that?
So, yeah, it says he has 9 allegations from 9 different massage therapists.
Okay, so just 9. I must have been way off on my number. Maybe I heard somebody talking in a podcast and maybe they're just exaggerating. But the point remains, 13 years ago, that was the 13. They stem from 13 years ago. So
that's probably it, yeah.
So, anyway, I guess maybe he knew that these allegations were going to be coming out, and that's why he sucked at kicking this year, because the guy went from the greatest kicker of all time to, you got to cut this guy and bring somebody off the scrap heap because he's losing you games. And maybe it's because of the fact that he's going down the Deshaun Watson road. Went from being one of the best in his position, definitely the best during his time, to, ooh, man, this guy, he doesn't look very good anymore. And it not just be, and the thing is, okay, in football, kickers are great well into their 30s. Like, I mean, the greatest kicker of all time. Who would you say the greatest kicker of all time before Justin Tucker?
Vinatieri?
I was going to say Adam Vinatieri. Adam Vinatieri is kicking until he's like 45 years old. Okay? All you got to do is kick. There's nothing else to it. Like, you just get out there and you kick the ball. Okay? So it's not like you have to be in peak physical condition. You got to be able to kick. So, I mean, it's like you got to have some leg strength, but it's not like you're a quarterback or an lineman or a defensive lineman. Like,
I mean, even quarterback, the way things are going, man, they can't get touched.
Well, yeah, that's true, but they also run a lot more now than they did during Brady's time.
That's
right?
true.
So, like, you don't have many guys that just stand there and call out the defense, and now they're moving like crazy. But Justin Tucker's 31, 32.
Yeah, he's not old.
He is not old. It is not old enough to say his decline is due to age. There's something mental there. And I'm thinking these accusations against him are the proof of it.
Yeah.
What say you?
I mean, kicking's all mental.
Yeah.
Every position is, but kicking more than anything.
So much pressure. Everyone's staring at you.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of these games come down to these field goals at the end of the game, or now even these extra points. I think it has to do something with it. I mean, to go from being like a 90% kicker, greatest
for your career.
Yeah. Greatest percentage of all time to he's missing, 2 kicks
a game
at this point. Something's not adding up.
The thing that's crazy about it, it's not that they're short. Right? If he was leaving kicks short, you think maybe he's got something physical wrong. No, he's going wide left, wide right.
Yeah.
Like, he's not. So, anyway, I don't know that was super important for people to know about since the Ravens aren't playing in the playoffs anymore. Like, they're out. But I just look at it and say that I think this is what it is. It's got to be that. Even whether the allegations are true or not, the fact that they're coming out has got to be messing with your mental space.
You think he's around next year on the Ravens?
Right now, I'm going to say no.
Okay.
I'm saying no right now. With more information to come out, like if these things get settled, I'm still saying no. If they go to court and it's proven that they were false, yeah, I think they do more. I think they give him more rope than they gave Ray Rice.
I'm gonna say yes.
You think he's on the team still next year?
I do. Number one, I don't like if you get to look at the kickers that are on the scrap heap.
There's never a good
nobody.
List. There's never a good list.
There's nobody.
No.
And unfortunate thing about sports is If you're better than the guy that's they could pick up instead of you, if you're better than them, you're probably going to stay on the team. So
that's true. I think specifically the reasons why I said this with the Ravens is they've had a history of this. I mean, you remember?
Yeah,
Ray Rice.
but I mean, they didn't cut Ray Rice until the video came out.
Yeah, and they did. When the video came out, they immediately cut him.
Yeah, but not until the video came out.
True, but that was also because they were going off for everyone's word, and some of the word was from the fiance. By the way, Ray Rice was a running back, really good running back for the Ravens years ago. I think he was on the Super Bowl winning team, right? The last Super Bowl winning team. Yeah,
he was.
And either he was on it, or he was right before it. Either way, he was during the heyday, good years for the Ravens, which they really don't have many bad years. There was accusation, he got arrested, that he punched his fiance and knocked her out in an elevator in a casino, right? And this is what's so sad about it. It happened. Fiance came out and said, no, it was because of me. I was going back to our last conversations. Never justified. It was me. I was egging him on. We had too much to drink. This is a moment where I say, even with the video, you say there was no excuse for that. Like meets with Roger Goodell, fiance Ray Rice, meet with the commissioner of the NFL, who's in charge of all discipline. And he says, okay, you are suspended for 3 games. That's it. 3 games. Everyone thought, wow, that's a big suspension for this, since she completely exonerated him, said nothing happened. Okay. And then the next day, somebody found the video footage in which he absolutely knocked her out. Straight arm to the chin, bomb, gone.
Cocked it back as far as he could.
And just let it loose. And obviously, to me, for a guy like Ray Rice, who had an exemplary reputation to that point, well known for great deeds in the community, obviously dude was drunk. I mean, they were in a casino. They both said that they had a lot to drink. That had to have been the case. And again, I'm not saying this, I know this, but I'm sure Ray Rice had seen something like that happen in his past based on what we know of his past. Again, I'm not excusing any of that. Don't get me wrong. This isn't even, I'm not even trying to joke about it like we did with the last conversation. I'm being serious. I do not excuse it. But then he got suspended indefinitely. An indefinite suspension or something. I don't remember how long it was, but it was a much longer, almost a full year.
Ravens cut him pretty quick. After TMZ came forth with the video,
they cut him.
He was gone.
Yeah. And that's not the last time it's happened in the NFL. This was years ago, and it won't be the last, right? This happened many times. Kareem Hunt's been cut for multiple teams for accusations, none of which came with the video. But I think with the Ravens specifically, because of their history, if this does get a little bit more traction underneath it to say there's some truth to it, I think they cut ties.
Yeah, it's possible.
Right now, based on the history with Sean Watson, I think they cut ties.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the Ravens, I guess, are definitely a better run franchise than the Browns. So,
much
to say the least.
So anyway, it's just more, I guess, news in the NFL. Speaking of which, we might as well get into it now. Super Bowl's on Sunday. Chiefs Eagles. What's your call?
Man, I think the 3-peat's going to happen.
I am going to say it. I think the Eagles win.
Really?
Let it be known, I actually want the 3-peat.
Really?
I do. I want to see history. No one's ever done it before.
All right, so we're opposite on both, because I do not want the 3-peat to happen.
But you think it's going to?
I think it's going to happen. Man, Patrick Mahomes is just, I hate to say it, because for people who don't know me, I am a Patrick Mahomes hater, but he's it, man. He's it.
And I'm going to back you up on this. You've been saying that since his first year starting. So anybody that knows, David grew up a huge Broncos fan. And because of that, watching Patrick Mahomes take over the AFC West division was like torture to him. I remember that first year he's starting. This is the year. It's not his rookie year. His rookie year, he sat on the bench behind Alex Smith as the starter for the Chiefs. The next year, absolutely took the league by storm. And I remember you then saying, this guy's going to be the greatest he's ever played. And I was telling you, I don't know, man. 1 year, so far, I am clearly the wrong one in that debate. And you are much closer to being correct than I was.
He's so good.
He is.
He's so good.
The crazy thing about him is it's not that you look at his statistics and say, oh, he's clearly the best quarterback in the league. Because if you look at him this year, he's like mid-tier, right? Joe Burrow's the best.
Oh, yeah.
Lamar Jackson's the best. Josh Allen's the best. Patrick Mahomes, he just had to have been playing on a good team. No.
Winning time comes around.
Winning time.
Nobody you'd rather have in that position.
Especially today. You can make an argument for maybe Tom Brady or Joe Montana back in the day. Today, nobody. Patrick Mahomes sits alone at the top of that mountain.
13 seconds was too much. That's all you got to say.
The Bills were leading the game with 13 seconds on the clock, and they lost. 13 seconds, by the way. Not 13 seconds and the Chiefs were on their 20-yard line. No. They got the ball at 13 seconds left in the game after having just scored, and they lost that game. That is almost the 28-3 stat that Tom Brady can throw at anybody's face. Not quite the same, because 28-3 is unbelievable. But 13 seconds left and you win after you get the ball? That's on a kickoff? That's nuts. The reason why I say I think the Eagles will do it is, dude, they're a different team with Saquon Barkley.
They are.
Saquon Barkley, and I've been talking about Derrick Henry this whole year because I've looked at the combination of Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson is got to be the best backfield in football based on what strengths they both bring to the table. But Saquon Barkley is probably the best running back in football. I mean, if he's not the best, he and Derrick Henry are 1A, 1B. Saquon Barkley is a freak. Also known as Quadzilla. This guy's got the thickest quads on a human being you've ever seen. And when he turns it on, dude, is there a faster guy running the ball in the backfield?
I think I texted you, honestly, a couple of weeks back. Chris Johnson, when he had those 2,000-yard rushing season, it felt like every single handoff he got, I mean, he could go for 40, 50. Yep. That's how I feel about Saquon Barkley right now. Every handoff he gets, I'm scared he's going to break off a 40-yard touchdown.
You're completely justified. Look at the playoffs. How many times has he broken off a 60-yard run in the playoffs?
And one of those he cut off.
Yes.
They got the first down. He didn't need the touchdown, so he just slid.
Dude, here's an insane fact or stat. Saquon Barkley had 2,000 yards rushing this season. What's the overall record? The total record's like 2105. 2105. I think it's the all-time rushing single season record. Okay. And it's held by Eric Dickerson from way back in the 80s with the Rams, okay? And this year, Saquon Barkley had a very serious chance to break that record with a full game to play. And he sat out, didn't even play the game. He is currently 30 yards away from the most rushing yards in a full season, including the playoffs. Terrell Davis holds that record. He is going to smash that record. There's no chance the Chiefs hold him to under 30. No chance.
Injury is the only way.
The only way is if he literally gets shot. Someone pulls up and shoots the guy. Not advocating for violence. But I'm telling you, if this guy stays healthy, he's going to. There's no chance that doesn't happen. And I look at that and I say that the Chiefs are, they're a freak team. They win games that doesn't make any sense. The fact that they beat the Bills again makes no sense. The Bills were the better team that day, but they lost again. The Chiefs just win. They just win.
They're inevitable.
They are. They're freaking Thanos. 100%. But I look at they're going against an Eagles team, offensively, probably the most well-rounded. I think that Jalen Hurts is clearly the inferior quarterback. And he has been the inferior quarterback in the last matchup. Jaden McDaniels is a better quarterback than him, even though he's a rookie. Mm-hmm. He is an inferior quarterback. Who did they play? No, they had to buy the first. No, they didn't have to buy the first round. Who did they play in the first round?
Did they play the Rams? Yeah, they played the Rams.
Yeah, and he's an inferior quarterback than Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford's a much better quarterback than he is. Okay? And I mean it, much better quarterback. Not athlete, by the way. Jalen Hurts is a great athlete. Mm-hmm. But he's got Saquon Barkley in the backfield with him. And he's got two legit wide receivers. A Heisman Trophy winner, Devontae Smith, and he's got number 11, A.J. Brown, who is, he's a pretty thickly built receiver. He's one of the best in the game. And as we said, there is no offensive line better than the Eagles' offensive line. None. They got a 6'7", 380-pound guard. Guy in the inside. He's a mammoth. Mekhi Becton is huge. And I just look at it and say, I just don't see how the Eagles, the Chiefs, and it's been the way all season long. How are the Chiefs winning? Nobody understands how the Chiefs are winning. They're just doing it. So I admit that I'm overlooking a very big fact that the Chiefs just win. But when I look at offense to defense, the offense of the Eagles, I just don't see how the Chiefs are able to stop that. And I can very much see how the Chiefs get stopped by the Eagles defense. The Eagles have the number one pass defense in the league. And the Chiefs are trying to use, why did I forget Hunt's first name just now? The running back.
Kareem Hunt, off the scrap heap, by the way, they signed him this year because Isaiah Pacheco got hurt. Yeah.
And they're trying to use those guys as a tandem running back duo. Their tackles are hurt. And their right tackle is one of the worst in the game. The guy gets 2 or 3 penalties every single game. And he's getting paid $20 million a year to do it, right? So it's like, I look at that team and I'm like, I can see how the Eagles win far easier than I see how the Chiefs win. And the only reason why anybody see the Chiefs win is they're Thanos. They just do. Like, that's the only thing that people can point to.
I was going to say, I'm listening to all your arguments here. You tell me, like, who has a better roster, 1 to 53? I mean, it's the Eagles, but it's Thanos, man. It's Thanos.
And that's the one thing I can say is, like, I can't truly argue against it because that has been the case all year, this year, all year, last year, because last year was supposed to be the last of the Chiefs, remember?
Yeah.
Nobody thought the Chiefs were going to do anything. They won the Super Bowl last year. And I just look at it and say the last time the Chiefs lost the Super Bowl, it looked very similar to this, in which their offensive tackles were hurt. The other team had a much better roster overall, and the Chiefs just weren't up to the task. Granted, he was also going against the GOAT and Tom Brady. But
Patrick Mahomes had a great game that game too, if you watch it. But yeah,
he also got
slaughtered. He got overblown by the talent on the other side.
Yeah, and his offensive tackles couldn't block anybody. He was running for his life the whole game long. So that's just how I see it this time around. I just look at it that way and say they don't have a left tackle. Right now they've moved out Joe Thuney, the left guard, to tackle in hopes to be able to fill that gap. But all my argument here is I'm officially saying that the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl. That's my official take. But let me tell you, I'm rooting for the Chiefs because I want to see the greatness. I want to see the three-peat. It's never happened before. This is the first time we've ever had the chance for it to happen again. Nobody ever gets to the Super Bowl for the third time after winning the first two. Like, that just doesn't happen. We've seen back-to-back championships. They've never gotten there for the third chance. Mm-hmm. In fact, the only team I can think of that's gotten there more times in a row are the Bills. Never won one of them. They got there 4 times in a row to lose 4 times in a row.
Man, that poor fan base.
I know. But I also got to say, it's the other reason why I'm really rooting for him. I really want to see Andy Reid celebrated as the greatest football coach of all time. I really want that for him because I love that.
You think that would put him above Belichick if he gets another one?
It really puts him in the conversation as being better than Belichick. It really does. Because you have to take into consideration the massive success he had in Philadelphia. He didn't win a Super Bowl. He went to multiple NFC championship games with Donovan McNabb as his quarterback. And he was highly successful every single year. He had one bad year. They fired him. He immediately goes to Chiefs, resurrects Alex Smith's career, I'm not saying that Patrick Mahomes wouldn't become great without him, but I certainly don't think he would have been as great as fast without Andy Reid. Because Andy Reid is one of the most under-celebrated great coaches in football history. When you consider it the total amount of success, because Bill Belichick didn't have any success until he got Tom Brady. If you go back in his career with the Browns, fired. Didn't make it out of the Browns. Well, he resigned from the Jets after like a day to become the coach of the Patriots. But finally, when Drew Bledsoe got hurt, and Tom Brady took over, that's when his success took off. Tom Brady leaves. What happens to the Patriots? Belichick got fired.
Yeah. I mean, he did have the 1 year with Matt Castle where they won like 11 or 12 games.
And that was right in the middle of the Tom Brady years when Tom Brady tore his ACL. And also, the first year with Mac Jones was great. They were really good that first year, and then everything fell apart. So I'm not trying to like disparage Belichick at all, like, because no coach is any good without at least a competent quarterback, right? That's just the fact. And when Mac Jones had massive regression, the whole organization went with it. And unfortunately, if you're Bill Belichick, you kind of have to wear that because you drafted him. You were the GM and coach. So I just think that if Andy Reid gets a three-peat with 4 bowls overall, that puts him 2 behind Belichick for Super Bowls. And I think that I don't know how many, he's pretty close to total wins as well. Yeah. And he's 66. So he's, 6 years younger than Belichick. And he's got Patrick Mahomes for another couple of years.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to retire with the Chiefs.
Yeah,
and he can ride it out with Mahomes. Man, I hope you're right.
Yeah,
man, I hope the Eagles win because I'm a dynasty hater, but I feel like they're inevitable.
Yeah, and it's funny how we have like there's no way to counter each other's argument. It's just what it is. We are rooting for the opposite things, but expect the opposite things. Like, I'm rooting for what you don't want to have happen, and I'm expecting to have happen what you're rooting for, like what you're not rooting for.
Yeah,
it's funny. We didn't even talk about this beforehand. That's just how we came to it. It wasn't even on the list of things to talk about. Okay. The next thing I wanted to say, and this is before the NBA trade deadline. So we've been adding to this list as time has gone on, and it's hard to really get to it because of what we already explained to in part one. But I was getting so disgusted with Jimmy Butler. So disgusted with Jimmy Butler. And I was getting to the point now where I was like, you know what? I have been disappointed by Bradley Beal. Never mad at Bradley Beal. Disappointed. Feeling like he is being forced to fill a role that he has never filled before in his career. In Washington, he was a great shooting guard, right? Mm-hmm. The entire offense flowed through him. He had a full season in which he scored 30 points a game. Two of them. Yeah, 2 of them. That is legit, by the way. That is legit. You can score 30 points a game. That's a serious offensive player, okay? Now, it needs to be taken into consideration. He did that basically as the only offensive weapon for the Wizards, but he still did it as the only offensive weapon, so everyone's focused in on that guy. You got to give him his credit.
Good shooting splits, too, in those seasons.
Yes,
so it's not like it was inefficient.
Exactly. So I just have been disappointed with him only in the sense that I really thought that Booker, Durant, and Beal could really find a way to coexist. I really thought they'd be able to figure that out with some offensive ball movement, some ability to cut out the ISO. Like, ISO's necessary every once in a while because each one of those guys are ISO players. But there has to be some way to figure out, hey, you know what? We can all coexist on the court at the same time, share the ball, good passes. Oh, we are the worst passing team in basketball. And it's not even close. I have never... My 8-year-old son, who knows nothing about basketball, was watching a game with me, and I texted you right after he said, Dad, we're really bad at passing the basketball, aren't we? He's like, yes, son. We are terrible. Terrible at it.
It was anyway, perfect example last night against OKC.
Oh, my gosh. That third quarter was absolutely torturous.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll get to that later. But I commended Bradley Beal for when he was told, hey, you're going to the bench because we need to figure out how to make this roster work. A guy who's been a starter almost his entire career, that's a blow. That's a hard thing. Even though if you look at his number, he's still playing the same amount of minutes every game. But coming off the bench is something that, as a basketball player, is a thing of pride. Mm-hmm. You are a starter. I am a starter, regardless of whether or not you're playing the same amount of minutes. The only person I can ever think of that took that role and excelled to a massive degree is Manu Ginobili. A guy who's clearly a starter, who comes off the bench, plays the same amount of minutes, finishes the game, but never let the fact that he wasn't a starter affect him, because he was clearly, like, when we talk about big threes, San Antonio's big three of Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker is, I mean, that's legendary. That's Hall of Fame stuff. Like, they're enshrined as probably one of the best big threes of all time. Mm-hmm. Probably the most understated dynasty ever.
Yeah.
But nobody, there's a reason why there's very few Manu Ginobilis we ever talk about. We only talk about the one because he's the one guy that I can think of that actually excelled at that in his career and won. Like, I can think of great six men. Lou Williams is a great six man, right?
Yeah,
Jamal Crawford.
There's a list of them.
Yeah, there's great
Jordan
six
Clarkson.
Jordan Clarkson. Great six men out there. But not many of them are guys you can look at and say they affected winning so much they won championships. Mm-hmm. Like, Manu's the one guy that I can think of. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that if I was talking to Bill Simmons or some basketball historian, they'd say, like, well, you know, and they'd give me a name. Like, okay. But I'm talking about in my lifetime since I've been watching, that's, you know, starts with the 93 Suns is really when I started watching. In that time, Manu's the only guy. I commended Bradley Beal for saying, okay, I'm not happy about it, but I'm going to do it. Like, I'm going to try my best at this. And he tried. And if you look at his numbers, he's pretty much the same player. There really isn't really any change, not just in his play, but the team's overall success. It's pretty much the same team. But he's still coming off the bench. Even last night when Kevin Durant couldn't play, he still came off the bench. They didn't shift the starting lineup to include him.
Yeah. I mean, I've honestly gained a lot of respect for Bradley Beal this season.
Me too.
I mean, yeah, like you said, coming off the bench can't be easy. That's not the only thing, though. I mean, the amount of trade rumors and just the noise about, you know, they don't want him in the building. They're trying to ship him out, just get rid of his contract, worst contract in basketball.
How many times have you heard that? Worst contract in basketball.
More times than I can count at this point. Oh my
gosh. By every single basketball reporter out there, they're all telling you that Bradley Beal, you have the worst contract in basketball.
And he's not a bad player. He's a good player. He's just vastly overpaid.
Vastly overpaid and a no trade clause.
Yeah. But I mean,
that really to me is
that's the key part.
That's the key part.
Yeah,
because lots of guys get overpaid. But there's two guys in the whole league that have a no trade clause,
and one of them's the greatest of, and the other maybe the greatest of all time.
He's definitely the greatest since 2000. Like easily the greatest of the last 25 years. There's no debate there.
Yeah,
people can debate whether or not he's better than Michael Jordan, but they cannot debate that anybody post Michael Jordan is better than him.
It's not Kobe. Sorry, JJ. It's not.
LeBron James.
It's not.
I forgot that's where JJ stands on that.
No, but I mean. Yeah, that's tough. And you don't hear a peep out of Bradley Beal. He comes in, plays his minutes, speaks well. I mean, he's been hurt a lot, but I don't think that's, a lack of him trying to stay in shape. It's
100% true. Because you look at the guy and say, clearly that guy's in shape.
Yeah.
You don't look like that by being out of shape. You're clearly working at it. And it's unfortunate because he came here with that reputation of always being hurt. Mm-hmm. And we were told, it's because he was playing for a bad Wizards team who was trying to lose. They would tell him to take many days off because they wanted to affect their overall wins-loss to be able to get more balls in the lottery. So I know I bought that hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
I believed it 100%. Only to find out 2 years later, he just is always hurt. And he plays more than half the season, but that's not enough.
Yeah.
But you're right.
Not when your team's so invested in just the top three guys.
Yes.
If it's more spread out, you can handle that more. But
right.
Yeah.
But you're also 100% right. Those are the things that should be totally taken into consideration. The fact that all of the noise around him as a player, all of the negative noise that he doesn't comment on. Like last night, when we were in the first half of that game last night against the Thunder.
He had a good game last night.
He had a very good game. And not only that, did you also see him smiling, being the Bradley Beal that people wanted to see when he got here? Mm-hmm. Now the third quarter absolutely ruined any goodwill that the entire team had built up to that point because it was a 43-16 loss, and it turned out to be a 39 point. Was it 39s?
I think they lost by 31 at the end.
31 point blowout, and it wasn't that close. By the way, it was not that close. That third quarter was so disheartening. Anyway, but all that is to say, Bradley Beal has been working through it, trying hard, still coming to play, still doing what he can to try and affect this team's overall wins-loss record. Jimmy Butler has been a cancer, to say the best possible thing about him. An absolute cancer. When he was in Chicago, he was I think he was the 30th overall draft pick in the first round. So this guy's almost second-round pick. Nobody knows this guy's out of Butler. And he gets drafted by the Chicago Bulls when they had Derrick Rose, who was just coming off an MVP season. Okay, Derrick Rose was unfortunate career for him because he came off as a freaking rocket. The guy was on fire to start the career. Multiple knee injuries, came out with a whimper. The fact that he has as long a career as he did was actually pretty impressive, considering the vast knee injuries he had early. Jimmy Butler can't be the number 2 to Derrick Rose, forces his way out of there. Says there's no way that we two can coexist on the same team. Whatever. He was young. Nobody really everyone's like, okay, who wants to get on the Jimmy Butler trade because he's a young, good player? Minnesota raises their hand and say, we'll take him. Okay. They bring him up to Minnesota. Jimmy Butler goes on all-time tirade against the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Legendary practice.
Look it up. We're not going to go over it, but look it up. Immediately follows that with a interview with who was the redhead interview with the NBA and ESPN? Do you remember her name?
Rachel Nichols?
Rachel Nichols.
Yeah.
He immediately goes from this legendary practice to Rachel Nichols and absolutely blasts the entire organization. Everybody on the team. Minnesota says, all right, screw you. Go to Philadelphia. Goes to Philadelphia. In Philadelphia, doesn't like the coach. Decides, you know what? I'm not shooting three-pointers anymore. Just refuses to shoot them. Which, by the way, for Philadelphia at that time was the number one thing in their offense. We shoot threes because it was a part of the process, if you recall. That was when Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and
well, because those guys didn't shoot threes, so someone had to.
Ben Simmons didn't shoot. So somebody had to do it. And gets his way out of there, ends up in Miami. That is where the things were the best. He takes them on 2 finals runs. Improbable, to say the least, finals runs. Obviously, they lost. Well, not obviously. They lost to the Lakers in the bubble, and then they lost to the Celtics. No. Who did they lose to? They lost in the Western Finals to the Nuggets, right?
Yeah, they lost to the Nuggets. Right.
Yeah, lost to the Nuggets. And honestly, they didn't stand a chance in the Nuggets. The fact that they got there was just incredible. An incredible run for the Miami Heat. At this point, everybody loves Jimmy Butler. Everybody loves Jimmy Butler. This guy's the greatest. Can't believe playoff Jimmy. This guy comes to ball when it matters the most. The next 2 seasons, this guy does not play the regular season. He's hurt, but hurt with an asterisk because nobody really understands. Are you hurt? Do we really believe you're hurt? And then they get to the playoffs. They get beat by the Celtics. And he says, oh, you know what? If I'd have played, we'd have won this. To which Pat Riley, who is a legend in the NBA, is one of the greatest coaches and definitely probably the greatest executive next to the logo himself. I'm blanking on his name right now.
Jerry West.
Jerry West. As maybe the best executives in basketball history, comes out and says, shut up if you're not playing. And I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what he said. Jimmy, shut up if you're not playing. You can't say that we would have won this. You didn't play. And I think that's Pat Riley basically saying, I've had enough of this. Jimmy, if you want to actually talk, come and play the game. So now Jimmy Butler comes into this season all butthurt. And if he's claiming that's the reason why, what it really is, in my opinion, he didn't have a contract beyond his player option for the next year. By the way, player option, meaning he's going to opt in for another $50 million next year.
Yeah.
This guy becomes a petulant brat. Demands his way out in the worst bratty ways possible. The team comes to him. They're going through a rough stretch because again, he's getting suspended constantly for things that he's doing against the team. He's missing team flights. He's not going to show up where the team needs him to be. He's missing practice. Shows up to a shoot around one morning. Coach comes to him and says, hey, you know what? Based on the way things are going, you're not starting tonight. You're coming off the bench. Which, by the way, is the same thing was said to Bradley Beal. Listen, things aren't going well right now. We want you to come and play off the bench. What does Jimmy Butler do, David?
Walks out of practice.
Walks out of practice. Peace out, I'm gone. To which the Heat say, all right, guess what? You're suspended indefinitely. Okay? Meaning you're no longer playing here for X amount of days. We'll decide that later.
Basically, the trade deadline was coming up. They pretty much told him, you've played your last game as a Miami Heat.
You're not playing with us anymore. And the thing that sucks the most about this is what did Jimmy Butler get? Exactly what he wanted. Maybe not exactly because he wanted to come to Phoenix so badly. At least that was what the whole rumor was. Mm-hmm. But he got out of Miami and he got a 2-year extension for $110 million from the Golden State Warriors.
Got what he wanted.
How can the league stand by and say that's okay?
I mean, you can't, but at the same time, the NBA at this point, it's run by the players. It's not run by anybody else. It's run by the superstar players.
In the worst way possible. Because there's no way anybody can tell me that that's a justifiable result. Jimmy Butler should be suspended by the league for a year for having torpedoed another organization. Just because he wanted a contract extension. Guess what? If you didn't want to play for Miami anymore, finish out the season, opt out. You're a free agent. Go anywhere you want. But no, that's not what he did. He ruined an organization's season to get traded to where he wanted to go, where somebody would give him a full extension for another 2 years. And by the way, not just keeping his maintained pay, increasing it from 50 to what is that, 55 at least. Mm-hmm. Like that's in no way could anybody say that that's okay. I know player analysts will say, well, you know what? He's got to do what's best for him because they're players. They're always going to advocate for players making more money because that's what they wanted.
Yeah.
But nobody can tell me this is a good thing for the NBA.
You signed a contract.
Not just that. You play basketball.
Yeah.
You're not going and fighting in a war. You play basketball. And you get paid an insane amount of money to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what else to say to that. It's true.
Dude, it is, again, the whole reason why I brought this up is like I had said to you earlier, I would much rather see the Suns crash and burn with the current roster that we have constructed than to have ever added Jimmy Butler to it based on the way he's been acting. And you disagree.
I mean, I disagree. And I get where you're coming from. As a Suns fan, I just want to win, man. I just want to win whatever it takes. That probably sounds scummy, but I just want to win. And I know Butler was not bringing us a championship.
No, he wasn't.
I mean, straight up, he was not. But he does make the team better. And
okay, what do we currently think is the Suns' biggest weakness right now? Other than overall defense, like what would you say is the one aspect you say, hey, this is where we need to improve upon the most? I know I'm putting you on the spot, so And
I just say that they
nobody
play
watches more basketball. Nobody watches more Phoenix Suns basketball than David here, by the way. So he's probably the most adept and qualified to answer this question outside of maybe Kellen Olson, the freak himself.
They play basketball like it's 1998. They shoot all mid-range jumpers. They don't get anything at the rim. They don't shoot any threes.
So how does Jimmy Butler help? Because he is not a perimeter shooter. He is a mid-range player. And he gets to the rim. Years old.
He gets to the rim.
Mid-range and to the rim, he's 35 years old, who also has just as extensive an injury history as Bradley Beal does.
Yeah.
And he's 5 years older.
I mean, I'm not...
Is he 3 years older? Bradley's 30 this year, right?
I think he's 31. Either way, it's like
he's
3 or 4 years.
By a couple of years.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it's a long-term play, but like, you get better. I hate to bag on Beal because I said earlier that I do like him, but he does have, a pretty bad contract. So, I mean, getting off that alone would have been a plus.
Yeah, I can't argue that one because getting off a Bradley Beal contract, honestly, I wouldn't feel the way I feel about Bradley Beal's contract if it didn't have the no trade clause. It's not even the amount that bothers me. It really isn't. Like, lots of players get paid an excessive amount of money for the amount of productivity they bring to the court, but it's the fact that you can't trade him for anybody unless he says yes. That's the part that sucks.
Yeah,
it really is. And it's like, I don't necessarily want to trade him. I don't want to trade him for Jimmy Butler because I don't see it actually improving the team. I think that gets us to the first round to get exit the playoffs, which is what we did last year. I don't think it gets us beyond the first round. It certainly doesn't bring us a championship. I don't see that working at all. Because does he play better defense? Yes, he plays better defense. Does he give us better positional, fit? Absolutely. Because he can now be a true small forward or a 3 if you want to go through the 1-5 system, 1 through 5 system. And Booker can be a true 2. But the problem is that's not the way we even play. We brought in a point guard to play point guard. It's still Devin Booker that plays point guard. And like we talked about earlier, poor Tyus Jones becomes a 6'1" 3-and-D guy, stuck into the corner. He doesn't run the offense like what we brought him in to do as a point guard. So, and Jimmy Butler is also a guy that demands the ball a lot as a ball handler. So I look and say, I just think it ruins the team. We become even more dependent on the mid-range. We're less capable of shooting out 3 because Bradley Beal is at least a competent, not an elite, but a competent 3-point shooter. And he's every bit, if not more athletic than Jimmy Butler is. He's just smaller. He's 6'3" or 6'4". I say he's probably 6'3", really.
I mean, yeah.
I hate what Jimmy Butler did to the Heat.
Which I get.
Hate that he got rewarded for it.
Yeah.
That is the thing that I think I hate the most about it. And with Bradley Beal, you are overpaid. Deserve's got nothing to do with it. You shouldn't have a no trade clause based on your standing in the league. But Bradley Beal, I would so much rather have you on this roster representing a Phoenix Sun as a Phoenician, as a fan of the team from my entire life, than I would have wanted to have Jimmy Butler on the roster.
Showed up to work every day. Had a smile on his face.
At least he tries to. Sometimes he's hurt.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a sad fact. Okay. Speaking of NBA Phoenix Suns, this has to be stated. Devin Booker is now the all-time leading scorer in Phoenix Suns history. Nobody has scored more points wearing a Phoenix Suns jersey than Devin Booker. You and I are of one mind on this. He is the greatest Phoenix Sun of all time.
Not only is he the greatest Phoenix Sun of all time, he's my favorite athlete of all time.
Favorite athlete overall?
He is my favorite athlete of all time.
He will have to win a championship to surpass Randy Johnson for me. But you weren't alive for Randy, so I get that. Or at least you weren't watching.
I don't have any memory of it.
Yeah. The fact that Randy brought us a championship and was the most dominant pitcher of his time is, to me, Devin Booker's got to bring us a championship. He got so close. He got so freaking close.
I have nightmares of that 2-0 lead. But I mean, for me, you got to imagine, I'm 15 when the Suns drafted Devin Booker. And he was 15. He was 18 years old when we drafted him. He started playing when he was 18. He was the youngest guy in his draft class. So, for all my formidable years, he was our best player. Even when we were winning nothing.
20 games a season.
Yeah. He was still the one guy that you felt like, all right, at least we have something with this guy. Through all the Josh Jacksons and Dragon Benders and Marquise Chris, I always clung to Devin Booker.
And you know what?
And so he became my favorite athlete.
So I have a friend who right now is of the mind, blow it all up. trade everybody. Nobody's untouchable. And I keep coming back and saying, no, Devin Booker's untouchable. And he's like, why? And he'll point out some of the things he's struggling with. Like, he talked the 2 past games where he had 9 turnovers with the Timberwolves.
He's had a rough year. No doubt about it.
He's had a rough start to the year. I firmly believe if you look at everybody that played on the Olympics roster, not a single one of them had a good start to the year. Mm-hmm. Not a single one of them. And I'm including Kevin Durant in that, even though he's the most steady Eddie player of anybody when it comes to offense. Like, the guy just falls out of bed and scores 28 points. Like, he just does it because nobody is as gifted as an offensive basketball player as he is, and nobody works harder at it than he does. Like, I'm not saying that he's just natural talent. That you hear tons of stories about how all the dude does is play basketball. That's all he does. And there's a reason why he's considered one of the greatest to ever have played the game. But nobody that played on that Olympic team started off the season and has had a good... Dude, Joel Embiid hasn't even played.
That's true.
I mean, like, and he's an extreme example.
I can't imagine being a Sixers fan right now.
Oh, dude, that is... I would much rather be a Phoenix Suns fan, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because at least our guys play as much as they possibly can.
At least our head guy, at least Booker plays.
And Durant plays.
Yeah.
Durant has been so surprisingly durable based on
with
what
us,
we were.
Honestly,
yes.
yeah.
we were crossing our fingers saying hopefully he can play 55 games in a season and we'll be good. He played 75 last year.
Yeah.
And he's missed what, 10 this year?
No, yeah, he's been durable
in
the Suns uniform
as a Phoenix Sun. So I'm not going to knock him on that. Bradley Beal, we've already talked about his. But nobody that played on that Olympic team has had a great season. Devin Booker, not excluded from that. He had a rough start. I think he's really rounding into shape. He's playing point guard again for the second year in a row on a team that doesn't move the ball. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a big disservice to him. I don't think he should be playing point guard. This is a serious question I have to ask. I don't know how coachable this team is because this offense doesn't look any different than Frank Vogel's. And
started out
completely different. And where did we start off 9-1? We did. And we had a completely different offense. And then somehow everybody fell in back to their old habits. And now we are 25-25.
I was listening to Burns and Gambo on the drive over to your house from work. And they were kind of talking about, like, if you're Matt Ishbia, what do? Do you fire a third coach in a row?
No.
But it's like, I wouldn't either. But I mean, I don't know what options you have. I mean, you really can't bring in you brought in 2 coaches in a row that are established championship coaches.
Yes.
You had a coach before that who was a multiple-time coach of the year who'd been honestly one of the faces of the franchise.
Yeah.
3 years in a row, team looks the exact same.
And so the question becomes, really the question is how coachable is this team? How coachable are your leaders on the team? And that's a serious question. And I was listening to Dan Bilkley talk specifically about Kevin Durant and Devin Booker in that he's come to the conclusion that it's unfair for us to expect these guys to be different than who they are. They've never been the alpha leader on any team. They've never been it. Now, they've represented the style of a team. Like when Kevin Durant went to the Warriors, he fell right in line. Mm-hmm. The guy fit right in like a freaking glove because he just plays ball. He didn't have to be the guy that's telling everyone what they're not doing. That was Draymond Green's job. Mm-hmm. When Devin Booker was at his best and when the team was at their best, that was Chris Paul's job. Chris Paul's the one that kept everybody in line. And Devin Booker just came to play. And it's funny how when Chris Paul came, how many reports did we see of Chris Paul and Devin Booker, they're practicing already. Like the day after the trade happened, they were already practicing at Sarver's house in the gym, right? Because I think it was, So, I mean, that was in the COVID time where you weren't allowed to be in public spaces. And the same thing happened when Kevin Durant got here. They just ball. They play ball together. I guess that's what they do. Mm-hmm. Devin Booker has no problem playing basketball. He loves playing basketball. It's clear every year, except for this, he comes with an improved portion of his game. Last year may have been the first year in which you said there wasn't something clearly noticeably different in his game. And again, I'm going back to the Olympics this time, and I'm only using that because everybody on that Olympics team struggled, and they've all had a hard start to the year. And so I think that was maybe another thing. Devin Booker came into the season thinking he could play the Olympics role, which was hey, I don't need to be the first guy to score. I'm not going to be as aggressive in the first quarter. Dude, Devin Booker, how many times do you remember him scoring 20 points in the first quarter?
That was his quarter.
That's his quarter. Like, that was what got the Suns off to these hot starts because Devin Booker came to play immediately. And for some reason, at the start of the season, he didn't. He came in very, all right, I'm willing to pass the ball. I don't have to take a shot. And lately, that's changed. But we're already more than halfway through the season. We're 50 games in. We got 32 to go.
Yeah.
And so it's a little too late. Where do we even get on the start of this? Oh, the whole blow it up and everything. My thing is, there's one untouchable, and it's Devin Booker. And the reason why he has been insanely loyal to Phoenix, even when Phoenix gave him no reason to be, other than they drafted him. And that doesn't mean anything in today's NBA. Doesn't mean anything. He has been super loyal to the Phoenix. He's never, ever once given a hint that he wanted to leave. He's always stayed. And when you have a guy like him...
I remember, sorry, just to bring this up.
Yeah.
There were rumors one of the years where we were really bad. I think it was the year we actually went to the bubble, but there were trade rumors at the deadline. And he actually quote tweeted one of those rumors and said, "I love Phoenix."
Yes. Like I said, he is only... If there's... All he's ever done is said, "No, I love Phoenix. This is where I'm going to be." Remember when people laughed at him saying, when he said, "I'm going to bring the next great team to Phoenix. They're going to come to me." You remember that?
Yeah.
He was quoted in a magazine. Everyone saw it. He's nuts. That team went to the finals. He brought a team. People came to him. Since then, we have had Chris Paul, Hall of Famer, want to come to Phoenix. We went to the finals. Kevin Durant wanted to come to Phoenix. Now, we lost in the playoffs, but he wanted. This is where he wanted to go. And I firmly believe that's because of Devin Booker. Bradley Beal would waive his no-trade clause for two teams, Phoenix and Miami. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that Devin Booker is here and he has stayed here. Never, ever, ever, ever will I be okay with trading Devin Booker. I won't be. I know that he'll get us the best return to restart. I know he will. But no. I want a Larry Fitzgerald wearing a Phoenix Suns jersey. A guy that started here and ends here.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I
agree
know
100%.
It's insanely naive to think that's going to happen because that doesn't happen. The only person I can think of lately was Kobe. Kobe's the only one I can think of.
Steph's going to do it.
Steph's going to do it. Steph's going to do it. But it's easy to do it with Steph because he won 4 titles.
Yeah.
No one's going to call for Steph to be sent out for a rebuild. They won 4 titles. But hey, guys, guess what? Phoenix, we've been to the finals 3 times. Devin Booker took us to one of them.
No, I agree. I mean, how can you get rid of the guy?
I can't.
I mean, he came in as an 18-year-old. He's still only 28.
Yeah.
Like, maybe not do a rebuild, but you can do a retool and he can still be a part of that.
He absolutely can. And this is where we talked about this earlier. It's going to sound like I'm saying, blow up the team. I don't mean that. I would be fine if we traded Kevin Durant. I really would be. I don't want to because he is a great player, but I would be fine if we traded him to retool with. I don't want to. Again, I'm not advocating for it at all. But if we had to trade anybody on our team to retool, Bradley Beal, no trade. So
not getting anything worth out of him.
And again, we already said this. Worst contract in the league. You're not going to get much back for him. Mm-hmm. So not trying to be mad or talk crap about Bradley Beal. I've already said my whole thing about him. I'm not trading Devin Booker. Kevin Durant's the only one where you'd actually get a solid return from because he is still an elite basketball player, even though he's 36 years old.
And the way he's playing, it's not like he relies on athleticism.
Yeah,
I mean, he's going to get to his spots and shoot his jumper, and that's it.
Yeah, and he's still unstoppable in doing so because he's 7 feet tall and can rise above just about anybody. The only person that honestly could probably block him is Victor Wembanyama because he's taller than him. There are not many dudes that can say that. And Victor Wembanyama was an all-time freaks. He's just, there's nobody like that. We used to say that about Kevin Durant until this guy came around. So he's the only guy that say, trade that you might be able to get something back you can build with. But I don't want to. I want to figure out how to make this roster work because I've said it a million times. When I look at this roster, I say, how is it this doesn't work? You've got 3 an all-time great offensive players. You shouldn't have to have a whole lot more than that to just be competent. And somehow, they're the worst passing team I've ever seen. And a lot of that has to do with the 3 great guys that I'm talking about, by the way. Mm-hmm. And somehow they're allergic to defense. They play terrible team defense. Terrible team defense. They have individual guys that are good defenders. Kevin Durant himself is an individual, really good defender. But as a team, terrible team defense. And somehow that's actually the thing I would say is my one critique. Devin Booker's defense has regressed a lot.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Chris Paul was on the team. Because that was actually the thing that was most impressive when we made that finals run is Devin Booker became like a guy that everybody critiqued his defense to bro, this guy is borderline all defensive team. Like if we had 5 all defensive teams, he would have made the 5th.
I got you.
That's what I mean. Like we're not talking like third team, but like if he was in the discussion of this guy's defense has severely increased. And now it's like
he's definitely seemed locked in on every possession.
Exactly. And now and some of that I do wonder, is that because of Chris Paul? Is that because we had a guy there that was holding everybody accountable? And Devin Booker's one of those guys like, hey, listen, you lead, I'll follow. I've got your back. He's a great player. That doesn't mean he's got the alpha leadership gene. Like that's just, it's unfair to expect that of guys who just aren't that way. And if they try to be that way, come off as super disingenuous. Luka Doncic, dumbest trade in the history of the NBA. Counter.
Definitely.
I'm willing to listen to any counters.
Definitely most shocking trade in the NBA that I've ever seen.
I'm sticking with dumbest. Because where would you rank right now Luka as... So Bill Simmons is the thing he calls like the trade value chart. It doesn't mean who's the best player, but who's the most untradeable player. Like right now, you wouldn't say Victor Wembanyama is the best player in the NBA, but you would say he is definitely the least tradable. You would never trade Victor Wembanyama if you had him on your team.
Yeah.
The guy that he had right behind him was Luka. I think Luka was number 4 on that list. As a no way you would ever trade this guy. He's just way too valuable.
I'm trying to look up how old Jokic is, but I mean,
Jokic was number 2. So it was Victor Wembanyama 1, Nikola Jokic number 2 on his untradeable list. I can't remember who number 3 was, but Luka might have been 3 or 4. I can't remember. But Luka was right there in the top 5 of, I mean, right now, Nikola Jokic is probably the best player in basketball. Definitely the least assuming. You would never guess this guy is, but he's probably the best player in basketball overall.
Yeah, okay? I think he is.
And so obviously Denver's never going to trade that guy, right? It would never make any sense to trade him because as long as he's on your team, you have a chance of winning a championship.
He's going down as a Nugget. He's going to retire. Nugget.
Yeah, he might retire next year. I mean, as far as a guy who seems completely disinterested in his job, he's number 1, but he's also the best at it. But Luka is 25 years old. He's already taken you to the Western Conference Finals twice and the NBA Finals once. You obviously were way overmatched by the Celtics, but most everybody was last year. But I think he's one of the only, I can't remember what the list is. He's an exclusive list of guys that have made first NBA 5 times in the start of his career. He came in as an 18-year-old. He's been in the league for 7 years, and he's already accomplished more than what you could ever expect anybody to accomplish. And you traded that guy. You saw the meme I sent you where it's
can't remember.
Where it's a SpongeBob thing where the guy's like, "This is $5," and it goes back to it's got a picture of the Lakers over the face of whoever the character was. I don't know much about SpongeBob, but the other one is the dumb starfish guy, and he's got a picture of the Mavericks, and he's like, "But I've only got 7." That's what that trade was. The Mavericks were like, "Hey, listen, I'll give you a generational talent." Quite possibly could be the greatest of his generation. All you got to do is give me back a super injury-prone, made of glass, albeit first-team All-NBA center, and Anthony Davis, and 1 draft pick? One first-round draft pick.
And Luka's going to be on the team, so it's probably not going to be that great of a pick to begin with.
No, it's not going to be, because he's going to be in the playoffs at the very least. That's what he's done basically every year of his career.
Yeah.
And to put this in context, listen, we in Phoenix all love Mikal Bridges. We love Mikal Bridges. He is a role player. Very, very good role player. He is an elite number 3 on your team, meaning like the 3rd best player. He's an elite level of that. He is a bottom tier number 2 best player on your team. Like you're not going to go very far if he's your number 2 guy, right? And I know that's kind of a weird scale for some people, but you get what I'm saying.
I get exactly what you're saying.
He got traded from the Mets to the Knicks for 5 first-round draft picks. 5. And we're talking about a guy who is, at best, the number 2 best team on a team that could possibly compete. At the very possible best. And we're talking about Luka Doncic, who has drug his team to the playoffs every year. I can't think, it's not every year of his existence, but almost every year for Anthony Davis, who is 32 years old, who's hurt more than any great player I could ever think of in a first-round draft pick. And I know that there were other players involved, but they're not worth talking about.
Yeah, that's the gist of the trade. Honestly, yeah, I mean, Luka's so good. It's no disrespect to Anthony Davis, but he's so good that we're talking about him in this trade like he's like Kwame Brown or something.
Yes! Like, you guys don't know who Kwame Brown is for good reason. But that's a great pull. That's a great comp.
Shout out Stephen A. Smith.
Is he the one that gave that comp? Dude, but it's true. I honestly, I can't believe what the Mavericks were thinking that... Okay, I said this earlier because this is a Bill Simmons comp. He said, listen, if they were so locked in on a defensive big man that they had to get only that and they didn't want to go to the entire league fishing for, for bets or offers, you would have said, okay, Anthony Davis is one of those elite big guys, plays great defense, right? And is a very, very good offensive player, right? But an elite defensive player. If you were to say, who else fits that category? Right now, probably the third best player in the league, maybe fourth best player in the league is Giannis Antetokounmpo, right? Okay. He's a great defender and a great he's an unstoppable offensive force but he's 30. So he's reaching the age at which that athletic skill is going to start to decline. He's 30 years old. He's great still. But if you called the Bucks and said, hey, listen, what would you need from us to be able to get Giannis off your hands? They would have said this conversation doesn't even start unless you're willing to talk about Luka, which they would have thought there's no way they're willing to do Luka. And if you would have said, all right, Luka's on the table, they would have said, you're kidding. No way. We're willing to, we're going to make that trade and reverse the clock 5 years on one of the best players in the league. Yeah, they would make that trade. You think the Bucks would make that trade? Especially with the fact that Giannis is now getting a reputation as a coach killer?
I don't think they would.
I think they would.
And it's not from like a talent or like roster building position. It's more from the fact that, Giannis has got them their first title in almost 50 years, and he got an a couple MVP awards with them. You're
right. But there also has been the constant talk about Giannis leaving, and he has not been the one that slammed the door on that talk either.
Yeah, in fact, he kind of opened that door up this week.
He opens it up kind of often to get his way. And so that's why I'm saying the Bucks would look at this and say, we could reverse the clock 5 years, get a guy who's 25. He's not even in his prime yet. Who's, by the way, he's the second least athletic guy in the NBA behind Jokic, who's the best player in the NBA. But their game is not predicated on athleticism. It is predicated on slow old man game with precise passing. Like, I don't know. I just cannot believe. And the thing that makes me so angry about this, it makes me so angry, is because the Lakers were thrown another freaking lifeline to reset their roster. Every generation of Lakers fan has no idea what it means to suffer a rebuild. You have no idea what that means. You can talk about the fact that you whiffed on Lonzo Ball, you whiffed on D'Angelo Russell, you whiffed on Julius Randle. Guess what? You got LeBron James just because you're in Los Angeles.
And those guys turned into Anthony Davis. You won a chip.
Those guys turned into Anthony Davis and you won a championship. Because you were born on third base. You are in Los Angeles, California. You get the bailout all the time. If David Stern was the commissioner still of the NBA, he would have vetoed that trade of Luka for Anthony Davis, just like he vetoed the Chris Paul trade years ago. He wouldn't have allowed it. He wouldn't have allowed Kobe to go there. To him go join with Kobe, because he looked at it and said, that is not fair compensation, which is what he did. He vetoed the trade, didn't allow it to go through. And then that's when Chris Paul ended up with the Clippers. That's great years, by the way.
Best years.
It was fun, super fun. Lob City was a blast. But the point I'm trying to make is that is such an absurd trade that just happened and got cleared that it is hard. We talked about this when it comes to like conspiracy theories. Do you think the NFL's rigged for the Chiefs? It is much easier for me to believe that the NBA is rigged for the Lakers than anything else.
If any pro sports league is rigged, it is absolutely the NBA. Absolutely the NBA.
Yes.
I seriously, I was watching the Suns game that Saturday night when the trade broke down.
We were texting back and forth as the game was going on.
I got the tweet, like the Shams notification, because I have him on, especially like the week of the trade deadline. I was like, this dude's hacked. His Twitter's hacked.
No way this is real. And especially when you saw the compensation. You're like, that's not a real trade. That's never going to happen.
And then I opened up Twitter and I start scrolling through. Everybody's reporting the same thing. I thought I was dreaming. I was like, there's absolutely no way.
I know, dude. There's no freaking way.
But here we are.
Here we are, post NBA trade deadline, which was a crazy deadline, by the way. We had a lot of, and it wasn't like lots of deals. It was lots of big deals.
Yeah.
De'Aaron Fox going to San Antonio to start the next Spurs dynasty with Victor Wembanyama.
That's going to be a fun team.
I hate to say it.
I like the Spurs.
I will say this. My hatred of the Spurs has definitely dissipated over the years.
Oh, yeah. I don't hate them like I did when I was a kid.
No, I don't either. But I still hate to see that they got, like, when they got the number 1 overall pick, my immediate thought was, okay, you got David Robinson with the number 1 pick. You got Tim Duncan with the number 1 pick. Now you got Victor Wembanyama with 1 pick. When we're talking about the NBA's definitely rigged, it definitely feels that way for certain places.
See, if anything, I feel like that's an argument for the people that say it's not. Because why would they rig it for San Antonio, Texas?
To make the rest of us think that there's a chance.
You know what? You're right.
I mean, I look at it and say that there's no way. Like, how is it that they always get the number 1 overall draft pick when there's a generational center available? How is it that the Cleveland Cavaliers got the number 1 overall draft pick the year after LeBron James left them? How is it that they got it twice in that interim in which he left? They got it 2 times. And the Suns have gotten it once in their entire existence for being exemplary members of the community and always trying to compete. We got it 1 time and we botched it. Which I have to admit, I was on board with the DeAndre Ayton pick at the time. So I'm not pretending like I was right. I was 100% wrong. Even though I was right about the Yusuf Nurkic trade. He sucks. I said it then. He sucks. And we had to attach a first-round draft pick to get rid of him because of how much he sucks.
Yeah, I mean, that trade was like a 4 out of 10. But it gets him out the door, so it is what it is.
I would say this, and I'm coming along. It's taken me a long time to come to this. Grayson Allen is the one good thing that came from that trade.
Grayson Allen's a player.
Every other team involved in that trade hates that trade. Portland, you can't tell me that Portland's happy with that trade.
You think Milwaukee hates it?
Who did Milwaukee get out of that again?
Damian Lillard?
Yeah, I think they hate it.
Really?
Because now they're stuck with Dame, who's going to be making $60 million, and they lost Grayson Allen.
All right.
And like I say, there's no way that Portland's happy. They got a guy on a max contract who is the least consistent player in the NBA with more talent than most have ever dreamed to have in DeAndre Ayton. Oh, yeah. And they gave up Drew Holiday like that. They
right after they got
nothing. Him. Like, for Robert Williams and nothing else. Like,
yeah.
Oh, anyway. NBA trades. You can always look at them years later and be like, man, who was the one that pulled that trigger? And that's what we're going to look at when it comes to this one. The GM for the Mavericks will never live this down. Ever. And Rob Pelinka went from the laughingstock of the league to is this guy a soothsayer? Is this a freaking wizard? What the heck? How did this happen?
He drugged him, man. There's no other way.
He had to have. Zach LaVine left Chicago finally after years of being talked about being leaving there. Now he's in Sacramento.
Yeah,
to be rejoined, baby.
Difference.
Him and
Chicago West. DeRozan. Chicago West.
Heading for another 39-43 season. All right. This is where I was going to say, like, when I talk about the NBA is against Phoenix, we finally got an NBA owner who is willing to spend whatever it takes to win. Just at the same time, we finally make all these moves. We get Bradley Beal. And what does the NBA do? They come out with the second apron and completely handcuff us. It is no longer beneficial to have a free spending owner in the NBA. In fact, it's detrimental.
Yeah.
You'd almost think that the NBA Players Association would have been vehemently against this. Don't you? Like, why would they approve this? Because this reduces owner spending.
Yeah. Honestly, I have no idea. Because you have, like, Tyus Jones, like, that's a guy I think of. That's a guy who should have got a mid-level exception type contract.
Absolutely. And the Suns would have been happy to give it to him.
And he gets a vet min.
A vet minimum. And he's not going to be able to get more than that next year. Maybe a little more. But he's been wildly underused.
Yeah.
But the point remains, he lost out on millions of dollars because of these new
collective bargaining agreements.
Yeah. Like, and again, it sucks because we finally got an owner who says, I don't care about the money. Spend it. Let's win. we're more handcuffed than any team in the league right now.
It's going to be interesting to see what they do this summer.
It is because
they got to get out of the second apron.
Yeah, or else it's so penalizing the farther you stay. By the way, second apron basically means you spend so much more money than what the regular salary cap allows that you now can't send out. Like if we wanted to trade, let's say Bradley Beal makes $50 million just for easy numbers, and we wanted to trade him for, no, actually, it's a bad example. Let's say we have two players on our team.
Yeah, like Grayson and Tyus, and you want to trade for like...
I was going to say, let's say we have two guys on our team that make $25 million, just for easy numbers, and you wanted to trade those two for one guy that makes 50. Can't do that anymore. You used to be able to do that under any condition. Now, because of this called the second apron, you're not allowed to do that. You can only trade one for one when you're over that second apron. You have to find somebody else willing to take your $25 million guy, and you have to get $25 million back. Or you can trade your one $25 million guy for two guys under, but you can't put two together to get one bigger guy. It seems like a small thing, but it gets even worse and worse as the years go on, where they freeze your draft picks. If you're the worst team in the league and you own your own draft pick, it freezes it to the very last pick in the round. Like
that's the big one.
That's honestly the big one. That's super penalizing. Last but not least, welcome back, Randal Grichuk.
Let's end on a happy note.
Yes, signed a 1-year deal to come back to Phoenix, Arizona, play for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Very happy to have you back, man. And for less money than you took last year. After having a really good year.
Yeah. No, he had a fantastic year.
I was happy with everything he did. Like, really good year. And what he was a designated hitter. And whenever we had a left-handed starter, Randal Grichuk got the start. Spot starts out in the outfield as well because he's a pretty good defender. Happy to have you back, man. Welcome back for 2025.
Rough Cardinals season, rough Sun season, but I'm really ready for some Diamondbacks baseball.
Isn't it funny how when the Diamondbacks miss the playoffs, you're like, the Diamondbacks are really going to be the only team that misses the playoffs in Arizona this year? And everybody's missing the playoffs in Arizona this year. I mean,
I should know better. I've been an Arizona sports fan my whole life. I should know better.
You should know better. There is no rest for the weary, man. We are just doomed because we're not Boston. For somehow every team in that organization or that city wins. We're not California, where, again, born on third base because you simply just have the best weather in the world.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I can't think of another organization in which you're just not. That just wins. What other city just wins? Like, to me, it's Los Angeles. I mean, other win championships, they just win because they get all of the stuff.
Yeah. Yeah,
or you're Boston.
It. Like other teams have like spurts, but those are the two cities that like just seems like they're always winning chips.
I want to say it's because they're great organizations. I think it has to be the case with Boston because they don't really have any other like natural desirable traits. They've got to be just really good, well-run organizations. But nobody can convince me that people in Los Angeles are better at their job than anywhere else. It's just because they're in LA.
Yeah, I agree.
Freaking garbage. Anyway, with that being said, stay fresh, all you cheese bags.
Shout out D-Book. Shout out Grichuk.
Peace. The JJ and Pug Show theme song was written, composed, and performed by Lane Hartman. Special thanks to Highland Communities for all the support given to our show. You can find the JJ and Pug Show podcast wherever you do listen to podcasts. Look us up on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Remember to share the show with your friends and family and subscribe wherever you do listen. If you're able to, please feel free to support us by sending a donation to us by going to ko-fi.com/the JJ and Pug Show. That is ko-fi.com/the JJ and Pug Show. Again, thank you so much, everybody, for all the support, whether that is by simply listening, whether that is sharing it with a friend, or giving us that sweet, sweet cash. We truly appreciate it all. Thank you so much.